What's up, Facebook family? What's good? What's good? What's good? Let me get some stuff in the chat. Let me get some hellos, some waves. Let me get some stuff in the chat. Talk to me. Talk to me. Welcome back. Welcome back to episode 3 of the After Church Talk podcast. I'm so excited tonight. My co-host will be showing up here in a second to help me out on tonight. But I don't know about you, but I'm super excited for tonight. Put something in the chat. Tell me how today has been for you. Talk to me. Tell me some hellos. Give me some waves. Give me something out there. I'm so excited about tonight's episode. It's going to be great. I'm so excited for all of my new people that are tuned in tonight. I want to share with you the mission and the reason why we started the podcast. After Church Talk podcast was started due to and because of the fact that there are people in this world who, are going through things on a day-to-day basis, and they're dealing with things, and they don't have an outlet or an area or space to share those things that are very personal to them, that they feel like they can share without being judged, without being criticized, without being talked about or talked down. And so this is why we created After Church Talk podcast, to build a community of Christians and believers, and even those that are not Christians and believers yet, to come together and provide a space where we can talk about different things that might not get talked about in church in depth, but we can talk about it here and just really build a strong community where we can just be able to feed off of each other and help each other out. So that's why we started After Church Talk podcast. And I'm so excited about tonight, because tonight the podcast is about dating. Somebody say dating. Somebody put dating in the chat. Put dating in the chat. Tonight is about dating. And I am excited about this topic. I've been waiting on this topic for a while. And this topic has really been on my heart, and it's been something that's been going on in the world that a lot of people are dealing with. A lot of people are asking about dating, and a lot of people are trying to figure out what the best way of dating is for this new era, for this new day and age. And so I'm really, really excited about this and excited about what's going to come on tonight. But I see some people coming in the chat, and we're going to get started on tonight. I don't know about you, but who's excited? I'm excited about today. I'm excited about this podcast episode, and we're going to get into it. Before we get into that, we always like to do talk about our different things that we have coming up. And this coming Thursday, somebody say this Thursday. We're talking about people in the chat. I know y'all have been in church. This Thursday, we have the Covenant Bible study that we do on Thursdays by my co-host Prince, who is coming shortly to tag in with me. But this Thursday at 7:15 on Zoom, you can reach out to him, and it is going to be something special. I tell you what, it's been blessing me and so many others that we've been hearing from with great positive feedback. And so I want you to prepare for this. I want you to prepare for this coming Thursday. It's going to be something grand. I don't know about you, but I'm excited about what's going on and what's happening and what is being done, not just in the podcast, but in the Bible study and just the community that we're trying to build at large. And so I am excited, but we're going to get into it on tonight. We ain't going to be too long. We try to keep our 45 minutes in so you can go do what you got to do. But we're going to get into it tonight. And I want you to make sure you tune in for Thursday and be a part of that as well. But we're going to get into it tonight and make sure that everything is good. And my co-host is here, so we're going to get started. Also, make sure you follow the After Church Talk podcast page on Facebook. We need a couple more followers, and then we're going to go live on there uh, from now on. And then also make sure you follow the YouTube page as well. Check out that URL link, and it'll take you straight to the YouTube. And all you have to do is click subscribe. And once we get, I believe, 40 more subscribers or so, then we'll be able to go live on there as well. And I'm super excited about both of those. And last but not least, before we go into the podcast tonight, we have Google Voice, which is what we call our call in. So you can call in today and you can talk to us, ask us questions, give us answers to the questions, give us your perspectives, give us your ideas, your thoughts, your opinions, whatever you got that you want to include into today's podcast. While we're on live, you'll be able to talk to us in person at the same time. And so let us know, your thoughts and your perspectives and your opinions. We're excited about tonight. We got some women that's going to be in the chat. We got some men, obviously. And dating is a tough and touchy subject. And so we're going to talk about it tonight. But we're going to get started with that. And so, with us getting started on tonight, the first question that I want to talk about tonight is, why is dating in this new era difficult? And you know what? I actually shared this on my Facebook page as a question that I put out there on my story. And I had a couple people that actually responded. And I want to read some of the response of, why is dating in this new era difficult? And one of the answers I had is, somebody said, I believe dating in this new era is so difficult because many are requiring unrealistic expectations. I said, okay, they know a little something. Okay. And then another person said, nobody wants to take things slow anymore. It's all about rushing to the next steps.
Oh, that's good.
That one got me. I said, okay, you've been in the dating world. But the same person said, I can't just do one reply. I got to do two. They said, I got to get enough of it out. They said, the media has such an idealist way of dating. It's difficult to get that natural building relationship. And when I saw those comments and those answers to the questions, one, I was excited, and I appreciate all of those who was able to comment and say what they said. But I really agree with all three of those. All three of those are good, and all three of those are important and play a role. And you're absolutely right. I believe all of those three reasons are why. But we're gonna go get into it. Prince, talk to me, man. Why do you think it's difficult to date in this new era? Why is it so difficult?
Man, first of all, the responses are,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
wow. I really hope we can get into that. And y'all let us know if y'all can hear everything okay. Give me some thumbs up, some likes for watching.
Yeah.
Make sure the sound and everything is great. Um, Man, dating is difficult for so many reasons. I think that, relationships as a whole, the foundation and the framework have shifted with time.
Yeah.
We can talk about the biblical view, and I'm sure we'll get to that a little bit later. But we know what that looks like as far as marriage. But the truth of the matter is, the Bible doesn't really have a chapter on dating.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's not a book on dating.
Yeah.
That's not really a thing. Even some levels of courtship, like we see certain things where, um, you know, Jacob would work for Rachel and things like that. In those sort of Middle Eastern times and in those old times in Middle Eastern culture.
Yeah.
But you don't really see like any particular information on dating.
Yeah.
And so I guess the long answer is, like, going through like coming up, I think times have changed, and as times have changed and things have evolved, expectations have changed.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
back in the day, you know, um, traditional values, the man was working hard, and women were expected to be more um, equipped to do domestic duties, right? The cooking, the cleaning, the raising the children, making the house a home. And he was responsible for providing, protecting, and demonstrating those things early on, I guess, in the dating process.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so women in that day, like our grandparents, even before that time, they were really looking for, okay, can this man lead in providing? Can this man lead in, is going to keep a steady job? Can he protect me?
Yeah.
Is he faithful? Do I feel like there's some affection, there's some love, whatever those things were? But it was very low maintenance, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like the expectations from both sides were just, hey, there's a role that you have, there's a role that I have. Let's just make sure we can do that. And then, do we like each other?
Right. Right.
And that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
Then you move on, and now that we have the advancement of technology, the average person makes more nowadays than back at those times.
Mm-hmm.
They have access to more money, access to more activities,
Yeah.
and then social media has unlocked this new idea of like relationships and dating.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, like once upon a time, traveling and going on trips,
Yeah.
going to Cabo, going to Paris, those were considered luxuries
Mm-hmm.
that people aspired to have.
Yeah.
And through the lens of social media, those things have become the norm.
Mm-hmm.
And so now there's this added expectation
Yeah.
that a lot of people have of each other where those things are expected more upfront.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about can you provide, can you protect. It's like, can you take me to Cabo? Can
Mm-hmm.
you pay my phone bill? Can
Yeah.
you pay me my like all
Yeah.
these other things? Can you pay my credit card bill?
Right.
All
Right.
these other things. And then probably from the other side as well, looking at like okay, many things that just maybe weren't as important
Mm-hmm.
in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that that's made it sort of difficult. But I also think, and this is where I want you to chime in,
Yeah.
I think what's also made it difficult is we live in a society where we have so many desires that we
Mm-hmm.
chase,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and they're really insatiable. Like we can't really satisfy them.
Yeah.
They're really lofty desires,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be how a person looks or we could be real shallow sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And when I
Yeah.
say we, I'm not talking about just men. Men and women can be really shallow sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's difficult just because what each party is expecting nowadays
Mm-hmm.
is totally different.
That's good. I'm glad you tested that. We got a caller coming in. Caller.
Mother Princess Medium Dark Skin Tone 2 Hearts.
Okay.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Let's do it. Caller 1. Talk to us. What's your perspective? Why is dating in this new era difficult?
Hello.
Yes. Talk to us.
I think I would like to respond to the dating. I I would like to respond to the dating question. Can
All
you
right.
hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Talk to us. What do you think? What's your
Okay.
answers?
I just think that in this day and time, a lot of people their expectations are not balanced. So there's a unbalance in expectation, and then also I feel that um, many people are not taking the time to really just get to know each other. They want to rush into, like Princeton was saying, just give me this, give me that. Get to know this person. Find out what they really like. You know, don't put so many demands. I feel like there's too many demands, in dating this day and time. Now, I'm not saying don't have a standard. I think standards are awesome. But as far as just wanting all of these things before you really get to know a person, like, say, for instance, and I'm going to say this quickly, you want somebody to take you to Mahogany. I don't even know what you have to offer. Mahogany is a very expensive restaurant, but what are you bringing to the table while we're dating? So that's just all I wanted to say. I'm gonna give somebody else a chance.
All right.
Thank you.
Caller 1, thank you so much. We appreciate your perspective. Thank you.
Now caller one sounds old school. It
Yeah.
sounds like they probably were dating in the '90s, the
Okay.
'80s. You know
Okay.
what I mean?
Okay.
You hear that old school tone to it. It's
Yeah.
very mature.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that? Talk about that.
You know what? I I think that although it's very old school, I think she has a point. I think that, you know, the expectations, kind of like what you said, and I think what a lot of the answers said on the question, there's unrealistic expectations. And I think the fact that coming out the gate initially when you're dating, the fact that, men and women expect so much, you want to go to Mahogany on the first date, or you want to go to You know, even the Cheesecake Factory is not good anymore. You know,
You saw
And
that
so
post. Was it like a year or two
yeah,
ago?
yeah.
That came out where somebody
I
like refused to get out the
Oh my
car.
goodness! I wish I had the post to share with you
I
all.
want someone to let me know in the comments.
Yeah.
I need some people to share this. If you haven't shared it,
Yeah,
if you haven't liked it, we need people to get engaged in this. And there's going to be probably a part 2 at some point
absolutely
to this.
absolutely.
But I need to know, we need to know with this Cheesecake Factory thing.
Yeah,
I want to know. There was a list that was out there.
there was a list, and I remember quite a few on the list, and I'm just gonna go through a few. And the people in the comments, tell me if this is like no or if this is okay. I remember Cheesecake Factory. I remember.
Now this list is a no, like this is not acceptable.
Yes, this is a list that's not
on the
acceptable.
first date.
That was created by all women. Just to put that out there, not shading any women, but we want to get a better understanding of why these are not okay. I remember church being on there. I remember bowling being on there. I remember ice cream being on there, ice cream dates. I remember so many others, Applebee's, Chili's, Olive Garden, Red Lobster.
Was Walk in the Park on there?
Walk in the Park, I believe, was on there. So many different places and activities were on there that, you know, as men, you know, especially for myself, I would assume would be a great first date. But many of the women that came together and created that list thought that all of those were no goes and that all of those were, you know, not accepted on the first date. So talk to me in the comments and let us know what you all think.
I really hope we get some more women to chime in, and we'll have again a part 2.
Absolutely.
We'll be able to have some
We'll have some guests.
guests.
Yeah.
But like, I really want to hear these perspectives in the comments because, you know, when I saw that list, now granted, he and I, we laughed at the list.
Yeah.
We know it's not every person that has that view, but I know for me, I read a lot of the comments
Mm-hmm.
on this post that was circulating on social media,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people felt they agreed with that.
Yeah.
And so for me, going back to the question, why is it difficult? As a person who is single, I'm not going to say that too loud.
Yeah.
But you know,
the mic picked you up.
but as a person who is single, you know, and I get questions all the time about dating as a Christian man, a man who loves the Lord, a man who has a call from God and understands his call.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have to be very selective, as anybody should be.
Absolutely.
And so, like, people ask me all the time, you know, is it difficult? What makes it difficult? What is it? What are the things that you're facing? And I think one of the things for me, and it's only 2 people here. Now, I've had conversations with a lot of people, men and women, but I can speak for me in this perspective. One of the things that is difficult is, I think, like what the caller said, you want to get to know someone.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, one of the things that I do, if I'm talking to someone brand new, right, and this is the tea, I'm giving y'all the tea, I always like to define terms. Because I've discovered that dating has different connotations depending on who you're talking to. Just that word alone.
Yeah.
So I think one of the difficulties
Yeah.
is that we have different definitions for dating and or courtship.
Okay.
So we're not on the same page. I think it's one of those things.
Okay.
Where you have some people that think, for some people, dating is you're exclusively with one person.
Yeah.
For other people, dating is I'm going on multiple dates and I'm just kind of feeling things out. So you have to really define those terms early on,
right,
to be on the same page. I think the other thing I find difficult too is the goal is to get to know someone either way. And I think it's difficult. I've learned something, you know, coming up, we were raised, you and I, as brothers, we were raised to be very, very respectful, very kind to women, right? I was trying to think of another word beyond just kind, but just to be very, very even generous in some aspects, right? And romantic, all those things, right? To be very attentive and intentional is a good word when you're with a woman. And so, like, I think coming up, it was this thing of like, as a man, we were trained like you had to be a certain way
Yeah. Yeah.
when you're interacting with a woman.
Right.
And that's good, right? To be that way, to be respectful, to, you know, they don't touch doors when we're in our presence, you know,
Mhm.
picking up all these things that are just normalized for us in our development.
Mhm.
That's great. But I think what I discovered is that some of those things that you bring to the table, some people may want that and not actually want the opportunity to get to know you.
Yeah.
And that can be difficult too, because the Bible talks about guarding your heart,
Mhm.
you know. And so it's like I want to show somebody, right? I'm not when I say me, just in general, a person,
Mhm.
you want to show someone who you are, you want
Yeah.
to have that interaction. But nowadays, one of the difficulties is we don't know the agenda of the other person.
That's true. That's
Talk
true.
like talk about that. Like the agenda of the other person, discerning the agenda of the other person, which I think is a good principle
Mhm.
in dating, is discerning the agenda of the other person.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, even though that list was extremely extensive,
Mhm.
I think what bothered me about the list the most was like the idea of whatever, whether we're bowling, we're going to ice cream, we end up going to dinner, lunch, or coffee. The idea is, hey, I don't know you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't.
That's true.
I don't know you.
That's true.
You know, like let's get to know each other.
Mhm.
And so when there's these demands that like precede actually getting to know someone, it can be a little like it can make you like back up, like, hold on,
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I want to engage this.
Mhm.
Talk to me in your perspective. Why you think it may be difficult?
Yeah, I agree, and we're moving forward because I know we got other questions that we're going to talk about. And I heard one of the comments say self-centered women, and I hear you out there. But no, to answer your question, I'm in agreement, and I think, and we're gonna one of the questions is gonna pop up earlier that's gonna go a little deeper into this. But I think nowadays, men and women, we have a challenge of we're more so what's the word I want to use, materialistic at times, to where we're more so based upon the experience, rather than actually getting to know that person. We want to have that courtship, that type of experience where, okay, you come in a black SUV to pick me up, and you have roses ready for me, you're opening the door, you're doing all this, and all that is great. When I'm not against that at all, but I think when it comes to dating, in the first date or the second date, or initially, there's a like you said, there's a level of building a relationship on a friend level, or building just a relationship just to know you. I got to get to know you, because at this point you might have talked on the phone a couple of times, possibly, before going out on a date, but you really don't know that person. You might know, oh, my favorite color is blue, like, well, that's cute,
Yeah.
but we got to go deeper and dive in and see what about you is really going to help or challenge me to want to ask more and move to the next level. And so this goes into the next question, or the next page, which is the C word. Now the C word is probably the most difficult thing when it comes to dating once you get to a certain level, and that is commitment. A lot of us, and when I say us, men and women in the dating pool nowadays, have a strong problem with commitment. The word commitment, the idea of commitment. We're not really for it all the times, and I understand, because back in the day, I was reading the Bible the other day, and there are so many kings and people in the Bible that had 300 concubines and 50 wives and all of this. And I know that in some Islamic and other religions and whatnot, they do some of those similar things. But I get how commitment can be challenging. But talk to me about commitment. What do you think? Why do you think the C word holds so much power, or why do you think the C word is kind of like people shy away from it? They don't really want to have anything to do with the word commitment.
I'm gonna say something that might be heavy.
Okay, talk to us, Prince.
I think commitment is challenging
Mm-hmm.
to many of us
Mm.
because commitment means that I have a responsibility to be consistent.
Mm.
A
Okay.
lot of times, our issue with commitment is our issue with consistency.
That's true. Good point.
One of the things you notice, I've heard a lot of women say it too on the other side, and we want to be like equitable and talk about both sides.
Right.
And I want to come back and talk about something else in a second too.
Absolutely.
But one of the things I've heard a lot of times is women will say, well, when I was with this guy, I was dating him. When we first started, he used to do this, and so, thus, and so.
Mm-hmm.
And then after whatever happened, either we got in a relationship, more permanent relationship, or something else transpired, maybe the person got what they were looking for, then all of a sudden there's a change up,
Mm-hmm.
right? And now things are different.
Right.
And a lot of times, I think the issue with commitment is goes back to what I just said a moment ago.
Mm-hmm.
There's a responsibility to be consistent.
Yeah.
And consistent not just in performing a duty or a task, but consistently showing up.
Mm-hmm.
Commitment also knocks on the door of our vulnerability and says, you know what? You actually have to like reveal yourself
Right.
to really get into a deeper relationship, because commitment is the pathway to intimacy.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
I can't be intimate with someone I'm not committed to.
Mm-hmm.
Not truly. You can do sexual activities, but that doesn't always mean that there's intimacy there.
Mm-hmm.
Intimacy comes from a level of transparency and vulnerability that's beyond just sexual interaction. That has to do with the level of vulnerability in which a person is being seen in more ways than just one.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that commitment is challenging because it really reveals the inconsistency that the average person has gotten comfortable in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of times we're not consistent, especially relationally, even in our friendships. One of the things that I like to evaluate whenever I'm getting to know someone is I want to see who their friends are.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see what their routines are in their life. What are the things that they are consistently doing? And a lot of times, what you'll find out is consistency, right? Consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever a person is consistent to, it shows you how aligned they are,
Right.
what they value.
Right.
Right. I'm not going to be consistent in something that I don't value.
Absolutely.
So a lot of times, sometimes, and this may be a little gut punch,
Hey.
but a lot of times, a person's refusal and or inability to be committed
Mm-hmm.
is their unwillingness to be consistent, which goes to indirectly say that there's something that they don't see in the same light as it relates to value as the other person.
Mm-hmm.
Simply put, we don't value the same things. And that's a challenging conversation.
Absolutely.
Because that could also turn into we don't value each other in the same way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I want to pass it back to you, but I have to address this because we didn't address it earlier.
Please.
I think too, I want to be conscious of making sure we're equitable and talking about both sides.
Absolutely.
I think when it comes to women too, talking about commitment, right? I think a lot of times what hinders commitment, it goes back to something we talked about earlier about discerning agendas.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes there are those men, right? It's on both sides, but I want to talk about the men. There are those men, right, who you know what they're here for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they're good at what they do. They know how to be temporarily consistent, really more persistent than consistent,
right,
to get what they want.
Yeah.
Right. Sexually. I mean, let's just be honest.
Let's put it out.
And I think that and here's my unpopular opinion, and this is why I believe the Bible even speaks about abstinence and not engaging in fornication and things like that, because a lot of times by withholding that part of yourself, it really exposes whether somebody really wants to be committed or not.
Yeah.
It really does. Because then what happens is once a person has access to something they want without commitment, when do you ever get the opportunity to really see and understand if this person is for real.
Right.
And I think by giving them that so early, that piece of yourself, that at this point you have given them nothing to really look forward to, because something that would be withheld for the sake of commitment. In other words, there's a part of you that's not accessed until there's a certain level of commitment.
Right.
That's been freely given at this point.
Right.
So I think I wanted to mention that too, because that
Good
ties
point.
into commitment,
Good
where
point.
maybe we're not engaging commitment with people because maybe what we're giving off it doesn't give off commitment, right? We easily give up the goods. We easily let people monopolize our time, because it's not always sex. Sometimes it's just giving people too much access to our lives too early,
Right.
giving too much insight and access to our world in a construct that normally would require a certain level of commitment.
Right.
And so now we've opened the door to where people can access the inner parts of us without actually having to commit.
Right. That's a good point. I want to read some of these comments real quick. I know they're coming in fast. Somebody said commitment promotes stability and doesn't allow room for taking the easy way out. That's where I was going to go. Somebody else said stability in the mind and heart. Somebody said commitment is having to release all other options. That's my perspective. Okay. Choosing to release. Okay. In older generations, marriage and long-term commitment were often seen as goals, but now people prioritize career, travel, and self-discovery first, which is not wrong, but it often delay or complicates the path to commitment. Interesting. Okay.
So what that last statement points out something further, which is, and that goes into this era that we're talking about as we go into the next sort of phase. Maybe part of the difficulty in this era is we're a little too selfish.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're too stuck on us. We're too stuck on our needs and our wants. And one thing I do know about any relationship is real relationships are sacrificial.
That's true. That's true.
Real relationships require some reciprocal exchange of sacrificial love, affection, endearment, just being there. Like even when you feel like, okay, I don't have a lot to give, but because of your care for that person, like it requires that. And to that person's point, I think that's a good point. That maybe some of the difficulty is a lot of people today are more selfish. Maybe our access to more things has increased the opportunity for people to be more greedy.
Good point. As we're moving to the next phase, the only thing I want to insert is that I think a lot of people forget that commitment is not something that comes overnight.
Right.
Commitment is a daily thing. So if you're not committed to the daily things that happen in your life, whether it's waking up and going to work every morning or waking up and going to church every morning, if you're not committed in general, then when it comes time for a relationship, dating, marriage, or whatever your next step is, commitment is not even going to be an option for you because you don't know about it. You're not used to it. You've never experienced what commitment really looks like, what the sacrifice that comes with commitment. Because, one of the comments said commitment has to do with, releasing all your options. That's a sacrifice for most people. They're like, okay, I got a side chick over here. I got, a sneaky link, as the young people say now over here. It's like, okay, I got to get rid of all those and just devour to you. You are my focus. They're like, I don't know about that. They're not quick to want to do that, and so it's very difficult. Somebody says society doesn't promote commitment because of the high rate of broken homes, single parenting, and divorce. That's a good point. We're going to move to the next phase. Now, this part is something I struggle with, and we got some women in the chat and some men. So talk to us. Zodiac signs. I I struggle with this because, well, for one, I don't even know what my zodiac sign is. I'm gonna be honest with you. But for two, uh, that is something that is new and relevant, and that is being promoted now, to the point to where, and for those that may not know, a zodiac sign, at least what I've heard it is, a zodiac sign is basically whatever month and day you were born in, that puts you towards a zodiac sign, whether it's Cancer, which is a weird zodiac sign to have because nobody wants to have Cancer, Aries, and there's so many others, and then they have definitions of what those are. So for a Cancer, which I don't know what the actual definition is, but let's say a Cancer is a hothead, somebody who's selfish, somebody who loves many things or many people. I don't think zodiac signs is good to compare people to. But talk to me, what do you think? Because I'll be rambling all day about zodiac signs. What do you think about this new day and this new era with zodiac signs? How do you feel about that?
Well, of course, most people know zodiac. It gets really into some aspects of astrology and things of that nature. But, um, from my perspective,
Yes.
my stance and my belief, I don't lean to that. That's not something I really subscribe to.
Mm-hmm.
I think I try to look at what is the intent. I think part of the intent is trying to categorize people in a way that makes it easier for us to digest, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to get to know somebody. I think it's almost like it's maybe used sometimes as the microwave way to get to know people.
That's a good way to
And
put
if you
it.
think about it, like our generation is very much so like, let's cut corners, let's
Yeah.
find an easy way.
Speed it up.
I want to tie the last point to this one too.
Absolutely.
One of the things I thought about is, in order to spell the word commitment, you have to have the word time. Time is in the word commitment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that what a lot of the zodiac signs and other things that people use are attempts to get to know somebody without engaging time.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a lazy way
Mm-hmm.
in some aspects, and that may be unpopular to some people. But I think it's a lazy way of actually getting to know someone.
Mm-hmm.
Is trying to find some large generalization, using some astrology and other things, and it goes deeper even than that. But using these things to get to know people rather than the old school, and I don't want to say old school, but just like the thing that God gave us, which is the ability to communicate with each other,
Right.
to talk with each other, to give time. And so now, if I say, okay, what zodiac sign are you? Because most of the time, people ask you that question, they make judgments.
Absolutely.
There's inferences that are evaluated
Mm-hmm.
that may or may not be true.
Right.
And so I think people will use that and be like, well, I know who you are.
Right.
That's typically what that is.
Absolutely.
Well, you're born, so you must be this. And I think that's an insult to God's creation, because it's like a snowflake. No snowflake is the same.
Mm-hmm.
As people, even our thumbprints, our fingerprints,
Mm-hmm.
you and I are blood. We have a large family, but none of our fingerprints are the same.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody in the world, we don't have the same fingerprints.
Right.
And I think that goes to speak to the peculiarity that we were built with divinely
Mm-hmm.
by God.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you understand the value of people, which really you need to understand who God is to really understand the value of people,
Right.
you really understand that people are too valuable to be boxed into a category.
Yeah.
The complexities of who we are, especially those of us who spend time getting to know ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is important before dating,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure we'll touch on that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's essential, because if you don't do that, you don't engage the fullness of the peculiarity that God has built into you.
Yeah.
We're all very different, and if we have similarities, there's always something that separates you from another person or me from another person.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that in the society, our microwave sort of approach to stuff is
Yes.
like, what is the quickest way I can identify who a person is without actually investing time?
Right. That's a good point. That's a good point. Time. We. I'm gonna be honest. A lot of young folks nowadays, we like to cut corners. We not even in the dating pool, but also like just in life. Even when it comes to God, I was talking to somebody the other day. Like when we want God to do something, we're like, do it now. Like, and I use the microwave popcorn, analogy as well. It's like I need this now. I didn't spend $100 that I was supposed to have for rent, and I spent it on food or something else, and it's like, Lord, I don't have enough for rent. I need you to make a way now. It's like, well, should the Lord really be making a way when you put yourself in that position? And it's the same. It's the same in dating. We're like, I know. Even I'll put myself out there at times. I'm like, Lord, I need you to come through now. Like I've been waiting for a while. And it's like, okay, are you really ready?
Hmm.
I think that's a valid question. Are you really ready? I think we was talking about this the other day.
Yeah.
And we're gonna move to the next question as well. But nowadays, compared to back in the day, women are a lot more independent now. They are a lot more ahead from a financial and occupation standpoint, to where you might meet somebody that you think is on your level, then you all start talking and comparing finances, and you're like, okay, you you making some good money. I might need to work on myself. I might not be ready. We might think we're ready for something, then we realize reality hits, and it's like, okay, maybe I'm not as ready as I think I am.
Well, and I think that goes into a very intricate and important part
Mm-hmm.
of our discussion,
Mm-hmm.
which is what is it that a person should be looking for?
That's where we were going next. I'm
Right.
glad you brought that up.
What is
Yes,
what is
yes.
it that a person, and I think it ties into all these things. And this is where I would love, I really wish we could have a large panel discussion, because I really want to hear. I mean, granted, I've talked to enough people to have an idea of some things. And
Right.
honestly, this could be a 3-hour conversation,
Mm-hmm.
just from conversations I've had alone with men and groups of women,
And women,
and I've
yeah.
heard both sides.
Mm-hmm.
But in today's time, and specifically, let's narrow it down, because it's going to be unique to every person, right?
Mm-hmm.
But based upon godly principles, what are the things that should be prioritized for a believer
Mm-hmm.
as it relates to qualities in that significant other in the dating process?
That's good. Chat, talk to us. That's the question. That was the next question we were moving to. What are the right things to look for, especially as a believer? I think that's the most challenging part. I think when I was talking to somebody the other day, and I told him, I said, I think when and it's just my perspective, but whenever you're an unbeliever, I think it's easier to kind of know what to look for, to kind of navigate your way through when it comes to dating. But I said, when you're a believer,
Well, and wait. Why do you say that? Why do you say that?
well, let's talk about it. I think as a believer, there are a lot of things, and this kind of goes back to our last episode, do's and don'ts. There are a lot of things that at a young age we were told, don't do this, don't do that, and our goals are different. We're as believers, we're not only looking to be married, but with marriage comes, we got to have the same, like, we got to be equally yoked. We got to have the same mission. Like, God is first. Our first goal is to serve God and to look to God for Him to be our everything, for advice, whatever. Even when it comes to discipline, if you end up having kids later on. So it's just the way you go about things as a believer when it comes to dating. There are certain things you look for that as an unbeliever you might not look for. It's like, okay, what is your relationship really like with God? Because we could say, and everybody uses the word loosely, we could say that we're a Christian, but does your life signify or implicate or show that you're a Christian, or are you just putting a word out there that oh, I'm a Christian, I know of God, I believe there's a higher power or somebody that's higher up that controls everything. Talk to us, chat. What you all think? I think it's different, man. I think as a believer, it's different to when you're.
So you think it's harder,
I think it's extremely hard.
harder to, and I want you to say the phrase you said again. It's harder to.
It's harder to look for, or it's harder as a believer to know the right things to look for, or to date. Basically, it's harder for a believer, I believe, to date than it is for an
Okay.
unbeliever.
So, okay, I see what you're saying. Because I think where I would maybe slightly say it a different way.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the scriptures, though we don't have scriptures about dating, there are qualities about a believer that we know everybody should have. There are those things.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think there are those other elements where maybe conversations have to be had about what it is a person needs,
Mm-hmm.
which requires, number one, that you have self-realization of who you actually are, your strengths, your weaknesses, the gaps, the things that you need. You talk about the help meet. The word is really supposed to be spelled METE, which is where we get the word meter.
Mm-hmm.
So a wife is a person who brings balance,
Right.
right? It's a person, and people talk about being complete. They say that word, but I think what they're trying to say is this person balances me.
Mm-hmm.
The areas where I'm not as strong in, and so I have an elevated weakness, they're strong in that. That brings balance, and vice versa. I'm able to be that for that person. So I think that for that, I would say that I would say I understand where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
I do think we have at least a good framework of what it is we should look for. Maybe we don't always have the greatest examples.
Mm-hmm.
The church has been known in recent years to have the highest divorce rates in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that has made things difficult as it relates to looking at relationship examples. But I think like the baseline of things, and you know what the funny thing is, when I look at even some couples who maybe don't have God at the center of the relationship, a lot of people use God principles even though they don't say it. That's what they are.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Talk about that.
So I think there are God principles that people identify. Like the Bible talks about preferring one another. I was just reading that. I believe it's in Philippians,
Mm-hmm.
and it talks about preferring one another in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
That's important. Even before marriage, I think in dating, one of the things that somebody asked me the other day, and I'll just kind of end it here and pass it back so we can dialogue more. But like somebody asked me like, what's one thing I'm looking forward to in a long term relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and what's one of my concerns. And very succinctly, I pretty much told the person, like, I think for me is very simple. I'm just wanting somebody who will be as attentive to me as I am to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think my biggest concern is that I um, would have a greater desire, or that I would put forth more effort
Mm-hmm.
to be intentional, to be attentive, to be giving, to be loving and affectionate, and to maybe not have that in return. And the truth of the matter is that's not a new concern. I think most people fear that
Mm-hmm.
in being a relationship where you bring such a level of intentionality to the relationship. Because the thing about it is, again, we talk about the sacrificial aspect.
Right.
Relationships are sacrificial. And if you're doing it God's way, right,
Mm-hmm.
in dating, and again, I think it's important that we clarify, I think the foundation of the dating framework we're talking about today is really dating with the intent of marrying
Mm-hmm.
someone, right, versus dating just to date. And I think those are two different conversations.
Absolutely.
But let's just use the lens of dating with intent to marry, meaning you're building something together.
Right.
I think that's the one thing that like I look for, is can this person reciprocate?
Mm-hmm.
Because the last thing I want to do is be in a situation where I'm pouring into someone who doesn't have the capacity or is unwilling to reciprocate the pour. And reciprocation doesn't mean you do it in the exact same way.
Right.
But the idea of a relationship is that neither one of us should ever be empty. Because as I'm pouring into you, I'm building you up so that you can pour into me.
Yeah.
And we keep doing that to each other. But then what I think what happens is sometimes we get with people who don't prefer the other person. And it goes back to the selfishness. And I think that's why it's difficult to date. Tying that back to the earlier is because you can't be sacrificial. You can't prefer other people. You can't be affectionate and lead in that towards another person and be selfish. You have to be willing. It's a matter of trust. I have to be willing to trust that this person is willing and has the capacity to pour back into me as I pour into them. As I'm affectionate, as I'm attentive, as I'm providing for them their needs and doing those things emotionally and spiritually, whatever the case may be. I have to trust that they're willing to do that. So let's get very practical before we go on, and let's just name a few things. This is not exhaustive. Like, we're touching the surface here.
Yeah.
In this conversation,
There's
there's really so much.
Yeah.
It's more of a palate wetter as we kind of dig into more. We'll kind of break this down in subsequent podcast episodes. But give some principles. Like, what are maybe 3-5 things that you feel like believers should look for in another person in dating that really helps to build the framework of a potentially successful relationship.
Yeah. I think, and this is probably cliche, but I think number one, having a real relationship with God is extremely important. I feel like without that one, the relationship has no chance, 0% chance, possibility of actually working, especially because as a believer you have a purpose and you have a goal, something you're trying to reach as far as doing the will of God. So if you don't have Him first in your life, that's, especially for me, and I'll be as transparent as possible. That's the number one thing I look for. And as soon as that is not seen immediately in your life, I eliminate you as an option, as a choice, as a chance. Like, your chances with me are no longer there because we don't have the same, same focus. Relationship with God. And here's one. I bring this up every time, and
I know you're.
I gotta put it out there, and I know some are gonna laugh, but we gotta talk about this. Hygiene is very,
hallelujah,
very.
You know what? We should have started off with this one. The difficulties of dating in this era. People don't want to wash their tails.
Come on now.
Huh?
Come on now.
Not acquainted with soap and water.
I mean, going days,
my God,
without bathing that's not of God.
That's a spirit.
Yeah.
We got to drive that out.
Yeah. That yeah. I agree. But
this fish smell. Yeasty.
Well, look, I don't want to go see, because I'll go rambling. I don't want to. I'm just trying to test the service. But if we say that we're Christians and we're believers of God, hygiene and bathing shouldn't really be a choice. It should just be something you do. It's whether whoever you are, man, woman, light skin, brown skin, dark skin, whatever you are, whoever you are, bathing should be in your daily routine. Lotion, lathering, all of that should be a part of your daily
lotion
routine.
And lathering. Huh?
That smell goods. When you walk by somebody, they should be like, okay, a double take. You smell good. Not the other way, like I want to run away from you. And
they used to have a saying. Now, it's not a scripture in the Bible anywhere that I've read, but it's a saying they used to say, cleanliness is next to godliness. That's what they used to say coming up.
Yeah.
It's not a scripture, but I don't think it's at least the heart of it of being clean. I don't think that's a bad thing to consider.
I, if it's not in the Bible, I'm sure the Lord expects us to be clean.
All right, man. Don't
Let's
stay there.
move now, because
And don't be offended. We're being it's
it's a
lighthearted,
joke, but it's real.
But you know, it's real.
You know, take it
Amen.
seriously.
Hallelujah.
But number 3, and this is one that doesn't get talked about a lot, especially as someone who is, you know, wanting to have kids. I think that's the ultimate goal, or it should be when you get married, because, you know, the Lord wants us to, you know,
Be fruitful, multiply.
Right, multiply. That's what I was looking for, and have kids. So I think mother tendencies, and for women it might be, you know, a different phrase. But having mother tendencies, I can talk about my mother. She's in the chat, and I know she'll agree with me. When you're a mother, and this is a whole nother topic as well, but I'm you know, there's a difference between a mother and a wife. And there's a difference between a mother and someone who had a child. And as a mother, you know, I remember times, you know, with our mother, we would be in church, or, you know, we'd be in the store. You know, Burlington is one of her favorite spots. Shout out to mom. But we'll be wherever we are, and if we need something, she has it. And I mean, she has everything, you know, from a sewing kit to a med kit with bandages and Neosporin, to, you know, peppermints if your breath is stank or rank, or if you just need something to chew on, you know, a candy or whatever, or, you know, Cheez-Its, like
Bandages.
bandages. As a mother, you have the tendencies is to tend to your child, you know, and that goes with even hygiene, even washing them. You know, like, there are certain things that a mother does, and certain tendencies that a mother has, and I think that is very, like, important to have. You know, because there are a lot of women out here, and no shots at the women, but there are a lot of women out here that sometimes will just have children and be like, "Well, I'm a mother," but they're not really doing the motherly things, and vice versa. There are a lot of men out here that are just, you know, planting their seed and having kids, and they're not doing their fatherly duties, you know, training up that child, teaching them how to be a man, teaching them how to treat a woman, you know, things of that nature. So that's sanitizer. Well, it kills 99.9.
We did a thing with our, and we got 2 more things.
Yes.
We did a thing with our mom had a huge birthday party this year, and one of the things we did is her friends. There were a lot of women there at the party, and so we had this game. What's the name of the game? I don't remember the name of the game.
I don't either.
We had this game where we asked all the women, and these were, a lot of them were mature, some young, some older. So it was actually a good mix of women there. And the goal was to see who carried these items, and the person, our sister, actually came up with it. So it wasn't biased. And, you know, it was very interesting. You saw the immediate distinction of, like, what you're talking about, where, and this could also be, is probably generational differences, but, like, some of the more seasoned women pretty much had everything from a bobby pin to a peppermint to a small sewing kit to bandages and all that type of stuff, you know, all kind of things. I mean, you know, grandma and mom had everything, and a couple other people, and you know, a lot of younger ones were just like, "Oh, I don't have that." You know, they got these nice purses, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, but it's more for a thing. So back to your list: God-fearing person, or someone who has a relationship with the Lord. You said hygiene, someone who prioritizes healthy hygiene, and someone who has nurturing mother-like tendencies and characteristics.
Yes.
So 2 more maybe, or 1 more, 1 or 2 more.
Let's give 1 more, and I think this last one I'm gonna give is important, but it's been talked about a lot within the dating pool of where it sits at, and I think that's attraction. And here's the thing, and we can't stay here because we got so many questions.
Man, we might have to.
And next episode we're gonna have some actual, hopefully two special guests, which will be women, to kind of tag team with us, so we have a broader perspective of everything from each perspective. But attractiveness, which is going into our next question as well. Attractiveness is something that's very important, and I can't stay on it too long. But when I say attractiveness, that doesn't mean that as the young people say, you have to be a 10, or that you have to be um, a model, or what some people might classify as the beautiful or most perfect woman in the world. It's more so, you know, being that you're attractive to me. It's more of an individual
Yeah.
aspect, or individual perspective of you. To everyone else, you could be a 6, but to me, you could be a 10 or a 9. And so I think and like I said, I'm not going to dive into it deep because we'll be talking about that for a while. I think attraction or attractiveness plays an important role as well, because you want to be attracted to your partner. You don't want to be with someone that you tolerate. You love them because you have to tolerate them now that you all are together, rather than loving them not only because they look good, but because you truly have built a relationship with them, and you really love them. And so I think attractiveness plays a role. But that moves to the next point. We got 2 more points. We're going to hit these quick. But that moves to the next point.
You might have to say something too for the
Yes.
next person.
Preference versus purpose. I recently watched another podcast, and they talked about this. Someone shared this podcast with me, and it really stood out to me because I believe a lot of people, and I could be guilty of this as well. But I feel there are people who have prioritized preference over purpose. And talk to me in the chat about what you think about this. But I think there are some people that, as far as your preferences go, they might be great for you, or you might feel like they're the best caliber or number one person. But there are also, on the flip side, there are some people that are not only fit some of your preferences, but they're what you need for your purpose that God has for you. And so, talk to me, Prince. What do you think about that? Preference versus purpose. What do you think about that?
I think that's a challenging question. And I say that because I think in general, I've heard this on other platforms,
Mhm.
this conversation where a lot of people are saying purpose over preference.
Mhm.
And I understand what it's saying. I guess for me, my lens would be the goal for every person should be that the way you live your life through the lens of purpose.
Okay.
And then purpose guides your preferences. Because I think that to say one versus the other, the Lord doesn't just drop a person in front of you and say he makes you marry someone.
Mm-hmm.
He gives you the ability to choose. Right? Your friendships, your relationships, even the attractive aspect, like the attraction is a preference. And so I guess what makes me a little nervous with that statement is that it could come off to certain people. And I say that because I will confess, like when I was younger and probably just being raised in a very Christian environment, and churches usually dominated by, at least in attendance, by a lot of women, coming up, it was very heavily like, okay, attraction was not really dealt with much. It almost came across as it's almost shallow for you to really have any sort of emphasis on that. That as long as they're God fearing, as long as they're blah blah blah, this and that, there's some compatibility, it should be fine. But as I developed and I learned through some dating experiences, there were some people that I talked to or maybe engaged with. The truth of the matter is that that one piece, that piece that I prefer, and maybe attraction, and it can be in other areas, not just attraction. But I ignored that. I neglected that, and what I discovered is that's not healthy either.
Right. Right.
And so I think the balance for me is purpose should be the lens by which we live our life, and it guides our preferences. So that way our preferences are in check, because sometimes our preferences are ruled by our desires, and our desires may not be godly. So I think our preferences have to be submitted to purpose.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think to take away or to ignore rather this idea that we're gonna have preferences of certain things, even relates to compatibility. Compatibility has to do with similar delights. You know what I mean? Like you gave the person. I've met people that are beautiful. We're not really compatible because the things that we prefer, lifestyle, so on and so forth, they may not always match. And so I think purpose is a guide to the things that we prefer. It helps keep our preferences in check to make sure that we're not preferring something that's dangerous for us, unhealthy for us, two, or three, something that's just really not godly. Because a lot of days in this time, a lot of times we prefer things based on social media. We're being fed things through the TV. There's so many countless philosophies that are happening today. And so I guess my response to that would be the way I live my life, and I believe by the word of God, is, to acknowledge God in all of our ways, which I think that prioritizes a sense of understanding what is God's will for my life. And the Bible talks about delighting ourselves in Him. So having an idea of what is my purpose, and then allowing purpose to be my lens on life. And then whatever I prefer shouldn't contradict or shouldn't oppose
Right.
the purpose that I understand.
Right.
That's how I would. So I may differ a little bit than some people, but I think purpose is more of a lens than something that we choose over something we prefer. Because the truth of the matter is, I'm not. There's a lot of people that love the Lord.
Right.
There's a lot of people that have good hygiene, they're nurturing,
Absolutely.
but you still may not. May not be what you want.
Absolutely.
So I think that there has to be a balance of, we have our preferences. We have things that we like. Maybe you like a lighter skinned person, darker skinned person, a person that's thicker, a person that's whatever, or a person who you have a preference for somebody who stimulates you intellectually because of something that you need. I think those things are fine, but I think that they have to just be submitted to a larger, bigger picture, which is purpose.
Okay. Let's read some of these comments real quick, and we're about to shut down and save some of the. We got so much more for next episode. But somebody said preference may lead to tolerate them, however, purpose pushes you to celebrate them. Okay, total agreement with that. When in proper alignment with God, both preference and purpose are met. Psalms 37:4. That's good. That's good. Okay. Well, look, you all, we have enjoyed all of the comments. Everybody that's tuned in, we definitely appreciate you all. Everyone that's going to tune in later, thank you for the support and tuning in. We want to prepare you for this Thursday, which is the Covenant Bible Study. Please check that out at 7:15. Check that out when you get a chance and be a part of that. Also, next podcast episode Sunday, which will be coming up soon on the August, I believe, the 3rd is when the next one will be. We're planning to have 2 special guests, which will actually be women. And with those women, we're going to go into our next episode.
You
don't want to miss it.
Want to miss this.
You don't want to miss it.
We're going to talk about all kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about dating after relationships, people who are dating for the first time. We're going to be talking about God-fearing men, God-fearing women, what that actually looks like, the different dynamics. what women may want,
Mm-hmm.
how they view
Yeah.
dating today,
Mm-hmm.
the fears of dating. I mean, all those things.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a great dialogue, and I think we'll be able to have a good discussion and get some balance. So today we wet the palate, but this is a big factor, and I think you and I are both passionate about this. I know there's a few things I'm passionate about, and one of those things is relationships,
Absolutely.
healthy relationships in the kingdom of God, because it lacks a lot. So many people I know, even on a pastoral level, leadership level, don't have great relationships, friendships, romantic relationships. Like I said, the church has skyrocketed in statistics of divorces and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of the things we have a passion about is actually being able to talk about godly principles for dating. Because, like we said, there's not a chapter
Right.
in the book, of the Holy Writ, that talks about this is what you should do for dating.
Right.
But there are principles, there are guides for people, and how people who have been transformed live their lives. And I think from there we can look at that, as well as looking at our experiences with people and looking at different studies of people, of humankind, human nature, human tendencies, all these things, emotions,
Yeah.
and being able to actually find that middle ground of being able to marry those two. Because I think that it's important, and this is part of the discussion that we're having, is not over spiritualizing relationships. Relationships are a very spiritual thing. It has a spiritual foundation. I'm not negating that. It's very important. But I think sometimes we over spiritualize things to compensate for our lack of understanding of those other things that are practical. There's a practicality to relationships and to dating. So
Right.
I look forward to.
Hey, I'm telling y'all, tune
That's
in.
right.
Our two special guests are.
podcast.
They're gonna really. They're gonna help. Hey, it's gonna be good. We're going dating 2.0 / why should I get married? So make sure you check us out. Next episode is gonna be good. Last comment we're gonna read before we get out of here. Dating comes from the root word data, or collecting information. That's true. That's true. And with that, you got to have time.
You can't spell commitment without time.
Come on.
You gotta have time.
Come on.
We can't cut corners.
Yeah.
Can't cut corners.
No microwave
That's
stuff.
if there's one thing. Let's leave with one thing.
Sure.
I'm gonna let you have that. Leave us with one thing that we can hold on to, a principle that we can use for navigating dating, no matter where you are. If you're just trying to get started, or whatever the case may be, what is something that we can walk away with today?
You know what? I'm gonna leave this with you all before we. The one thing, and we didn't really say it, but we kind of touched on it. The one thing I want to leave you with is, before even getting into a relationship or dating, make sure that you know yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's very important, because sometimes we come into dating and we try to go into relationships with a lot of personal baggage. And I'm not talking about, kids or baggage, but I'm talking about personal trauma and things that you go through that you could have been working on while in your single life, but you chose to, not really look on that, but actually just try to fill that with a significant other. And we can't fill those gaps or that hurt and pain with relationships, or with men or with women. Make sure you know yourself, and make sure that you really know and you really truly believe that you're ready for a relationship.
Be whole and be healed.
Yeah, whole and healed.
That's important. I love that, man. Well, it's been great.
Yeah, great. Tune in next time. We appreciate all of you all. Love you all. Till next time.